breathe deep in the gathering gloom. Watch light fade from every room. Sensitive people look back and lament. Another day is useless and it is spent. And passionate lovers wrestle as one. Lonely man cries for love and has none. New mother picks up and suckles her son. Senior citizens wish they were young. Cold-hearted orb that rules the night. Removes the colors from our sight. Red is gray and yellow white. But we decide which is right and which is an illusion.
Welcome, everybody, to Juice Pro Wrestling. With us today, Sretton in the studio with the Juice himself, which is myself. What's up, Sretton?
What's up, man? Just got a haircut. Feeling pretty good.
Damn, you look smooth. And we have a very special guest on this episode today. We have Barry Norman, who is an actor. He's a writer. He's like the media mogul, the king of all media nowadays. Now that Howard Stern is, no one's talking about it anymore.
DJ back in the day.
Yeah.
Author.
Yeah. This guy, Barry, we were talking before we got off and recorded. You've talked to people like, I mean, you were telling me Nirvana, Soundgarden, and I'm sure the list goes on and on, you know, Mick Foley. Tell everybody out there listening a little bit about yourself.
Well, I guess I've always been an opportunist. Been interested in all kinds of things in media, and whenever I saw a chance to get involved with it, I did so. I went to a year of school to learn the music industry, and they actually also taught television production, so I said, okay, I'll try that. I'm in Atlanta. I got a job with CNN, went to CNN Sports, and that's how I ended up eventually at World Championship Wrestling as a publicist.
Really?
And eventually they had a flyer saying, we're looking for publishers for professional wrestling, WCW. And I thought, well, I mean, parts of my life I was interested in wrestling. I was never this giant fan. I used to go to the Boston Garden as a kid.
Nice.
When I moved to Denver, I got into the AWA when all
nice.
the guys
Vern Gagne
joined Vince McMahon went.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, okay, it's live events, it's pay-per-view, it's merchandising, it's syndication, it's all kinds of interesting stuff. So let me try that. Now, I applied, and it turns out I was the only one that applied. So that's how I got the job. So,
well, what year was this?
Went off and do different things.
What year was this? Because I want to get into that because, you know, you just threw a fucking diamond in the rough there. Working for WCW, I was a big fan of WCW back in the day. You know, I was watching that in the early 90s.
Well, that's when I was there. I got hired in 89. I was there 89 to 95.
Really? So you were there when they signed Hogan and pretty much everybody, you know, right before the spark of the NWO.
Yep, I was there for that. When I started, it was just when Sting got off his knee injury, so he was the big star. Flair, the Steiner brothers, and then of course I was Kevin Nash and all that stuff. And
Barry, let me tell you this: the music back then, do you remember like Steiner Ride? Remember that shit?
Yeah, it was all awful.
Oh, dude, it was awful, but it's like The Room. It's like good, bad, awful. You know,
it's funny. I gotta butt in, Sretton here. It was awful. But the thing is, let's say you're sitting in your car today, like this morning, and you hear any one of those songs, it suddenly brings in this wave of a memory and emotion, and you just can't help but smile. I don't know about your experience back then, Barry. I'm sure you probably smile too, but when I hear those songs, and sometimes I think to myself, why am I reacting to this way? But I am, and it is what you say it is, but it's still like it brings up good stuff.
There's. I remember the Sting. You know, a man called Sting. Like it was so like just cheesy or whatever, but it was cool. It
was so awful.
Yeah, it was awful, dude. Another one of my favorites, and I don't. Who was Buff Bagwell, and I think what was his name? He ended up going to ECW. Scotty Riggs when they were the American Males. American Males.
Yeah, I did everything I could to get him. I mean, the funny thing is, just before I left, they got a guy named Bob Mould.
Bob Mould from Oh,
Bob Mould was a timekeeper. I was mentioning the radio show I did in 1992 for alternative music, and Bob Mould was his band Cracker was coming. Not
Yeah.
Cracker.
no.
Sugar. Sugar was happening, and he was in Husker Du.
Yeah, who I was just gonna say, dude. I'm a big punk guy. I was like, you're talking about the Bob Mould, you know, from Husker Du. That's awesome.
So I went to WCW. I said, you know who you have here? You're using as your timekeeper.
Are you fucking serious? So, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it here first. Bob Mould was the WCW timekeeper. This is correct, right?
This is correct. I mean, when I interviewed him in '92, and then he went to WCW years later, in the interview, he mentioned that he was a huge wrestling fan. So we started talking about that in the interview, and then years later, I see him. Oh my God. They just have him as the timekeeper. Does anyone know who this guy? And they had no idea. He just he applied and got a job as a freaking timekeeper. They wasted him.
Oh my God! Well, they wasted a lot of shit, but man,
they wasted a lot of people.
Man, that you just blew my mind, dude. You just fucking blew my mind. Like I said, I'm a big punk guy, and going back to I love the old hardcore and all that. And one of the bands, well, the band that is a result of that is Nirvana. You know, being a kid growing up and hearing Nirvana, obviously, probably when everybody did. I think I was 9 or 10, and Nevermind came out. I still to this day remember that summer, man, when that album was just white hot. And then being at a record store somewhere, and I saw Bleach, and I'm like, what the fuck is Bleach? You know, I was instantly turned on. And then I got into all these other bands in punk rock because of Nirvana. I'm a huge fan of Sonic Youth, the Meat Puppets, Black Flag, the list, Bad Brains, the list goes on and on. But it is because of them.
Henry Rollins is another friend of mine, but wrestling actually got me my interview with Nirvana the night before they went on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
When I was a publicist, I got this call one day from a guy named Rick Silva. He goes, "You don't know me. I do tour manager for some bands out of Seattle. I'm a huge wrestling fan. I'm going to be at Knoxville. Anyway, you can comp me some tickets." And I said, "It's Knoxville. It's not sold out. Who knows? He might do something for me in the future." So I said, "Sure." So I comped him those. And for the next couple months, I kept on getting calls. "I'm in this town. You're wrestling tonight. Can I get tickets?" And just before my job got eliminated from WCW, I was actually working on this idea for a show because being a friend of mine in New York who worked for Small Label, heard things starting to bubble as far as the alternative music scene. So we came up with the idea of let's see if we can make an alternative syndicated radio show that will help spearhead more of these artists and songs getting played.
Right.
So all of a sudden, one day, Rick Silva, he calls me and goes, "Hey, I'm managing this band. I think it's going to be a big deal. I'm going to send you their CD. It hasn't been released yet." So he sent me, I'm sure you can figure out, he sent me Nevermind.
Yeah.
I listened to it. I said, "Oh my God, this is going to blow the freaking lid right off it. We got to do our show right now. Otherwise, someone's going to get there to us." So I called him. He then arranged for me to have an interview with them in their hotel room, and they were able to use that interview for our demo to try to get a syndication deal.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a fascinating interview. Mostly Chris Novoselic talked, but I did get to speak with Kurt Cobain a little bit, and he just seemed so depressed about it. He's about to go on Saturday Night Live. Things are about to completely take off for them. So I asked him about that. I said, "What's so wrong? Why you look like this? Like you're at a dentist appointment?"
Yeah.
And he says, "We're taking off. This album's going crazy. All the people that hated me for years, spit on me, beat me up, are now huge fans."
He hated that. He had such disdain for that.
Yeah, because the hypocrisy of this is just too much. And I asked him, I said, "Well, you seem to be a smart guy. Why did you sign the major label with Geffen? You could have stayed on,
Sub Pop.
Sub Pop. You could have stayed on Sub Pop and just been a regional band."
Yeah.
And he goes, "I have no answer for that."
Really?
I mean, he kind of knew what he was doing, and then he regretted. So that was my question. You kind of knew that if everything went right, a major label can do the push, get you the tour, can get you airplay, and things could explode, and that's what happened.
But didn't buy happiness.
Yeah. So he basically he was kind of. I mean, I was kind of saying it in a nice way. Again, you're kind of whining, and you knew that this might happen.
Yeah. So you got that.
Forget how bad.
Right. Right out the gate, though, with you saying that, I mean, you got that impression, and of course, at the time, you didn't know nobody knew what was going to happen. But you kind of got that from Kurt, that it was, he was just, well, in your opinion, and there's no knock. I don't care if you say other way or not, but he came across as a little whiny to you, or?
No, well, I don't really want to say that. He came across, he was extremely intelligent. I mean, there's no doubt the guy had a super brain, was ahead of his time, brilliant songwriter, lyricist, knew what was going on. I just think
Did you feel the torture?
He knew what he was getting into. He just didn't want it once it was happening.
Yeah.
And I think he would have preferred just being that small regional band, Jewish thing, and not have everything else that happened with it, even though he kind of knew that was a possibility.
Right. And my whole thing...
Yeah, it came off a little whiny, like you kind of knew that this would happen. You didn't have to do it.
But yeah, and all the research and reading I've done, because like I said, I've been, I got, I don't know, a ridiculous, like a library of stuff from newspapers, magazines, all the books and all that shit. Because like I said, this was one of my heroes, growing up. I credit the reason I'm a musician right now to the man, because he turned me on to all this stuff. But it's one of those things, and I can somewhat identify with it because it seems like too much. It's like everybody wants that. You want to be successful. You want to have money. You want to live your best life. But if you're doing something like that, maybe it's on somebody else's terms, if that makes sense. Like he's on this label. He's got to associate with, he's got a shit ton of money coming in, but he's got to associate with all these people he really doesn't like. When you go back to talk like guys who were bullies, and I know that Kurt hated, seeing the fucking jocks in the audience, like, why are you at my punk show? Like he had a lot of integrity. That's why he would go on like a Saturday Night Live or MTV, whatever they did, and it's like, okay, play Teen Spirit. It's like, all right, fuck you, we're playing Territorial Pissings, So stuff like that, I really get his point of view on that, but it's crazy from a guy who was there and that seen him and did that. I totally would have been probably in the heat of the moment, like you too, like, man, what the fuck's this guy's problem, like.
Well, and to me, here and there's a thing to think about that. The only member of any one of the Seattle bands that made it huge, so when that whole wave came out in 91, 92, is Eddie Vedder.
I was just going to say it, yep.
I mean, Chris Cornell is dead.
And Cornell, he died.
Is dead.
Yep. Cornell, he outlasted so much, and I'm glad you brought that up, because to me, when I got older, I loved Soundgarden back then, but Nirvana was my shit. Like when I was a little kid, and especially when Kurt died, as much as it did for everybody, it affected a lot of people, and it cut, it stung, and there were people, doing copycat suicides, which is, it's stupid, I get it, though. I get it. People are so hurt, they feel the need that they have to do that their whole reason and vice for living, the guy that was able to keep them afloat, is now gone. So now they decide to take the same thing. I guess I get that. I really don't. But you know what I mean? I was telling Stretton earlier, I'm a Libra. I'm pretty well balanced. I can see the good in both sides, before I cast judgment or a real formative opinion on something. But the whole thing with Cornell was like, man, dude, like he survived all that shit. He was one of the few that survived. I know he had an addiction back in the day, but as I got older, I loved the fuck out of Soundgarden, because it was like Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, like, had a rock and roll baby, and it was fucking Soundgarden. They were metal, they were punk, they were their own thing. The dude, I always call it Jesus pipes. He had the Jesus pipes, man, like a Ronnie James Dio or something meets Robert Plant. Like it was just so amazing. And when he passed, I hadn't really felt like that sting since like Kurt died, because man, Soundgarden, when they left us in 96 after Down the Upside, I believe it was 96. People out there listening can correct me if I'm wrong. It was a huge shock, because that was a killer record, and then just call it quits after that because, internal conflict, whatever it was just like, okay, for what, 12, 13 plus years, we didn't have Soundgarden. Cornell put out Euphoria Morning, the solo record, which I thought was brilliant. Still to this day, I love rocking it. And then when, I'll never forget in 2010 when, Cornell started tweeting out or doing the Facebook, whatever it was, like, Knights of the Sound Table reunite, school's back in session. I'm like, oh shit, dude. And then they dropped that B-side that they redid, that was on the Guitar Hero and all that shit, Black Rain. And I was like, holy fuck, they're coming out of the doomy riffs. Cornell's got the godlike vocals. And I'm like, they were a super, really important band to me. So when he died, that was like, damn it, dude. You know, well, what do I have left from that scene? Because I was never a big Eddie Vedder guy, you know, like, and it was just weird for Cornell. You never know, like, if these people are happy or what's kind of substances or making them feel a certain way.
To me, here's the interesting thing. There's a lot of other bands in Seattle at that time that everyone was going to predict was going to make it out first. I mean, the Melvins was actually what Kurt Cobain said was
Buzz Osborne
influences on Nirvana. Then there was Bundle of Hiss, Green River. So all those bands, as far as I know, I mean, I haven't been tracking for a long time. As far as I know, there's been no deaths from them.
Right.
All the main ones, Alice in Chains, Mother Love Bone, Soundgarden, Nirvana, all of them, all their lead band are all dead by either suicide or
heroin,
by overdose.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was just a weird. I mean, the Seattle scene was very interesting because Seattle's where the whole coffee industry came from. Starbucks came from there. If you've never been to Seattle, it's not
Jimi fucking Hendrix, man.
So they're always depressed and it's never sunny. It's always overcast.
It's always So
I always wonder if that. I mean, and then of course they started signing every band. I don't know how to Seattle. That's what the music business does. They know everything because of copycat. Oh, wait, Athens, Georgia. Let's sign every band out of Athens.
Yeah.
The B-52s made it, and then REM makes it.
Yeah.
So I mean, they were probably fine when they were all doing their thing. They all played with each other's band. They had a region where they did really well. They had a record label that did really well.
They had community,
And then one broke through, and then the other, and then the other, and the other, and they all became huge. And then now they're all dead.
Yeah, and to me that was the last real, and hopefully it's not, but to me it was the last real boom in rock and roll. The last thing that was really unique and different. You know, I mean the whole grunge, alternative, whatever you want to call it, it was based in, you know, like 70s punk rock or in 80s punk rock, late 70s punk rock, I should say, and then in metal, you know, like, and it came together as this thing. But the one thing that was unique about that whole grunge scene was every grunge band was different. Okay, so you had Pearl Jam, who was cast as the grunge band, but they were your grunge rock band. You had Soundgarden, who was your like grunge metal band. Nirvana was your grunge punk band. You know what I'm saying? Like, they all kind of had these different things, and I really don't think a lot of those guys. I mean, you know, you've talked to some of them, and I know Cornell and them guys always hated the term grunge. You know, like it was like this media thing that was thrust upon them, and it's like, all right, whatever it is, what it is. But
well, it's the beginning of the end of everything. Is once the alternative becomes mainstream. This was the whole reason I created the show that I created. Was I said, okay, there's some artists that have already broken through. There's a ton more that should break through, and maybe they will, maybe they won't.
Right.
And that was the whole idea, was to give artists that you met that probably would never get a chance to.
Yeah.
And you're right that there's the main reason that nothing else is breaking through. It's almost the same thing in television.
It's not being pushed.
They used to be something called development. They used to have. I mean, Matthew Sweet was on my show.
I remember Matthew Sweet. That's awesome, dude. I remember the No Alternative compilation.
Yeah, I got those all the time. But it was like his fourth or fifth album, and his record label, those new records, they knew they had a talent, but they were going to let it develop. So they sent him on tour. They weren't going to push radio to play a hit, because if you push too early and it doesn't go anywhere, they won't give you another chance. No matter how good
because they just spent all this money, and
they let it develop. And then all of a sudden, Girlfriend came out in '92. They go, this is the song. It's got 2 or 3 songs that they're going to make it. They released the first song, Girlfriend. It becomes a hit. Bam, Matthew Sweet makes it. That doesn't happen anymore.
No.
So you have to have a ready-made hit before they even talk to you. And nowadays, I don't even know how you get a hit, because the number one revenue source is ringtones.
Yeah.
You know, it's not airplay. It's not, because no one's buying vinyl. No one's even buying CDs anymore.
Well, I don't know.
The big bands get tours.
People are buying vinyl. Like, as a physical medium, vinyl's back. I never thought I would see the day where it would have came back and kicked CD's ass, but it has. I mean, we wouldn't have record store day, you know, and a lot of that may be Johnny come lately's that, I need to collect this because it's hip and it's cool. whatever, they're still spending the money on it. Me, myself, I did always like listening to vinyl. I mean, even in high school and, when I was younger, my parents would have vinyl on there. That's what I was accustomed to. And then, of course, we all, got in the CD thing. It was convenient. And even with digital, it's super convenient, but I still like the albums that I fucking really adore. I'm going to buy it on vinyl because to me, I mean, how old is that medium? When we go back to when there was like cylindrical vinyl and shit like that,
it goes back to the 20s.
Yeah, dude.
Does anything go gold or platinum anymore where you actually have 500,000 sales or a million sales? I mean, are you number one based on radio airplay and sales? I have no idea how they even keep charts anymore or if that even matters.
It's so ridiculous now. And here's the other thing, though, as far as like integrity and just real music, there are some people out there and you really got to search for it. And one of the guys I want to shout out to, my buddy Brad Vanderzee, who is a guy that I think has created the most original music that nobody has ever heard out of like blues, punk rock, death metal, grindcore, and like poppy shit. Like he just, all that shit that you're probably sitting there like, well, that doesn't work together. He does it. And he just needs the right people, There isn't a lot of people willing to take chances on stuff anymore. And the music scene is so industrial and corporate nowadays. I mean, it's always been a business, but it is so much more a business than it's ever fucking been.
It's like what Barry just said. If you want to have a hit,
that own all the radio stations, and all programs centrally, before you can actually get your new artists on this station, and then if that does well, then it may go to this one, and that's how you slowly build the territory until finally you're getting the big market. And I did that in '92 when I also worked for a record label that Bowie was signed to. And I have no idea how any of that works today. And you're right. I mean, is there anything, even if it's something really good that's out now, is there anything that you've heard that you said, yeah, they'll be playing that 30 years from now?
Yeah, it's very hard to find.
I actually, to cut the both of you off, I actually do think that nowadays there is music out there. The thing is now, this time, and it's like that. We kind of had a short conversation off mic about the digital. Like we'll get into it in a little bit, Barry, about like digital filmmaking, the access to any person with a literal voice, an actual voice, not something to say, but if you can talk, you can do a podcast. Like there's the world has opened in that way that there is a saturation of.
Everybody has a voice now.
But like with music, I think that we have a ton of music out there, and a ton of it's good. A ton of it is bad, but there is so much good music out there.
It's like movies, though, Sretton, and I'm going to cut you off real quick because I know where you're going. It's like fucking movies. Look how many remakes have been done.
Right.
There's a lot of good original ideas out there. No one wants to fucking take a chance on it because, hey, we could just get this license, or we could in the music industry, we could remanufacture this fucking garbage.
It's like what Barry said. If you're for any medium that you're trying to do something, the people that have the big bucks, the people that want to invest tons of money in something, they want to do a zero risk thing. You have to, if you're doing music, you have to have a hit, something that's already a hit, before you even put it out.
Dude.
If you want to make a movie, if you want to make a movie, in the last week there's been discussion, or recently I should say, there's been a discussion about like Spider-Man suddenly has become relevant after Sony almost killed the franchise, and not for lack of a bad movie, but like it's just the way it happened.
Well, now them and Disney aren't doing. He's out of the MCU now.
So they're fighting.
Disney brought out Fox, so therefore,
there's
now
they got Deadpool, X-Men.
Might go away, so
so they're fighting. Yeah, they're fighing about it.
Completely ridiculous.
And it's all because it's a known. Yeah, and you're right, Barry. It's all because it's a known hit. It's a known. You can literally put out like 3 shit movies, and we will all spend money for those 3 shit movies. So there's zero risk. And there are
it's good intellectual property. I mean, Sony, to combat that, they put out Venom.
But I
saw Tom McFarlane talking about that on the podcast.
But I still do believe like there are certain pockets, if you can find them, that with especially with music, but also with like different. There's podcasts out there with people, Juice Pro Wrestling, with like really good voices, really good content. But there's musicians, like I'm a massive fan of like NPR does Tiny Desk Concerts. Barry, I don't know if you've ever heard of that or if you watch it or listen to it. On YouTube, if you go on YouTube, look up Tiny Desk Concerts. And whoever, I know who does it, but I can't remember his name right now. But the guy that produces it, it's produced well, it's filmed well. The sound mixing is ridiculous. Whoever does their sound mixing, this guy's on another level. but they do. It's a very eclectic mix of different things. So you can go from hip hop. Last summer they brought back. They had Cat Stevens do a set, but it's essentially like a show where they do a 3-song set in an office, like in somebody's office. But you can be exposed to all this cool stuff. The good music is out there. The obsessed artists, they're out there. I kind of think occasionally that Kurt Cobain would kind of be happy if he blew up today, because there are ways.
That's a tough.
That is tough because
comment.
I see. I'm not sure, because the main thing is the craft of either being a filmmaker or musician is lost, because now everything is instant. You don't even have to sing on key because you auto-tune.
You can auto-tune it. Yeah, I
was
totally
a garage band that sucked until they got better at it because they worked at it.
Yeah,
right. My first film that I shot was on film, which means when you're editing it, every time you make an edit, you're cutting
and pasting, like Frank
literally
Zappa.
cutting. Yeah.
Frank Zappa used to do that.
Because you can't just completely fix it through a digital program.
Right.
So you really had to know what you're doing. So I think the craftsmanship of making music and making film for a lot of people is lost, because digital just compensates.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm a big analog guy, and I know like Glenn Danzig does analog still. Even if he does put out the last couple albums sound like he's recording a garbage can, but whatever. That's what happens when you're big and you surround yourself with people that are like, yeah, Glenn, it's great. Even though, the songwriting, the material's great, but the recording's fucking dog dick.
Well, I mean, it is. And nothing can replace tube amps. Nothing sounds better than a good system playing vinyl. They haven't replicated. There's too much compression in digital. Yes, it'll last a lot longer because your tonal will eventually stress the crap out of your record.
True.
But they haven't made it sound better. I mean, the stuff that was done 50, 60, 70 years ago is better. I mean, you wanted a good amp, get a tube amp.
Yeah.
You want a good mic, get a tube mic.
Oh, yeah.
And it just doesn't sound as good. It doesn't look as good. I mean, I joined the dark side. I used to own a movie theater for 9 years, and I had to sell it in July because the ceiling was 5'5" inches, and it killed my neck and back and shoulders. So now I work for Darth Vader. I'm a manager at a big chain theater, and there's nothing about being involved in the film business that's that. It's like working at an airport. So the people who are the corporate, I mean, they don't. I mean, it's all content. They don't care what they.
They don't give a two fucks. It's all revenue stream.
Right.
Barry, I want to touch real quick because you said you interviewed Soundgarden. Now, when was this? Back in like early '90s as well, or?
That was part of my radio show. Once you cleared the New York market, and our syndicator said you have to clear New York City before.
Well, yeah, that's like Sinatra. Shout out to Nikita
Once we cleared New York, we got anything we wanted. Every radio record label would let us interview anyone. So my partner and I, we got backstage at Lollapalooza. So we were there when Soundgarden came on stage. We were there when Ministry came on stage. We were there when the Red Hot Chili Peppers came on stage, and they were told no. So we had our little DAT player and microphone. So they came up. I mean, I didn't get to talk to Chris Cornell that much. I spoke mostly
Kim.
Oh God, my brain is going.
Kim Thale,
the guitar player.
Kim Thale, yeah.
Yes.
He's from Chicago.
Same with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. The one I spoke most with was Chad Smith, the drummer.
Oh, you mean Will Ferrell, right?
After they came on stage, they're bouncing. They're as high as you can get.
Tube socks still on.
Pardon me?
I said their tube socks still on.
I wasn't looking, just in case one fell off.
That's all right. I like to make funnies.
The show had that kind of clout that we were able to get that level to speak to those type of artists right after they came on stage from playing in front of 10,000 people.
Yeah.
So that was cool. I mean, I got to interview Lou Reed, the night after.
Oh yeah,
Velvet Underground, New York City.
Nice.
So Michael Hutchins with NXS. I mean, we got access to obviously a lot of artists you never heard of. We did. I told you I interviewed Bob Mould. I interviewed David Lowery, who was originally in Camp of Van Beethoven and was in Cracker, was having a big hit with What the World Needs. So we got virtually and a lot of bands you never heard of that we were hoping. I mean, one guy we interviewed was a guy named Greg Alexander, and then he had a massive one-hit wonder when he was in the band, the New Radicals.
Yeah, holy shit. I remember that.
Yeah. So he had the solo artist. He didn't go anywhere. And then at that one, he had that one giant hit, and then I guess he fell off the planet again. But we interviewed a lot of artists that we thought we put on the show. We thought would make it big, and a lot of them did. Now, two bands we did interview and put on actually helped break them. As far as since we were on New York radio, they then added them to their playlist. They got played at other labels. And that was the band Live.
Oh, yeah.
I
don't love you.
Yeah.
Did you say Wasp?
Got to talk to Ed Kowalczyk.
Oh, nice.
Got to speak to Johnny Rotten, because
dude, I fucking
Public Image Limited, Live.
Love the Sex Pistols, dude. Public Image Limited. Who is the guitar player, the drummer? God, I'm trying to think of his name. Anyways,
the guitar player was Keith Levine that had a huge falling out, and the last album they wiped off his entire guitar track and had someone else start again. But we just interviewed Johnny Rotten.
Yeah, I know one of those guys though was not Johnny. I mean, I'm very familiar with Johnny, but as far as like Public Image goes, I'm not too keen on the members. But I know shout out to our homies out here in Valparaiso, Indiana, at Fluid Coffee Bar that had the dude out from Public Image, man, and like shit like that's super cool. But I was a big like I said, Nirvana is what got me into punk rock. So I guess you could say the first official like actual punk album I owned, other than like Nirvana, which I consider punk, whatever, was Nevermind the Bollocks. Sex Pistols. Like that album blew me the fuck away.
Well, yeah, me too. There's always a lot of argument. What was the first punk song? And I've always argued for a band called The Seeds. In 1966, they had a song called "You're Pushing Too Hard."
Okay.
So go look it up on YouTube and listen to it, and then you tell me if you think that had the making. This is before the Ramones, so we also got the interview.
Yeah, or Death. You're familiar with Death, right? The proto-punk band, all black dudes from Detroit.
Yeah, I mean the MC5, the Bad Brains.
Yeah.
Let's see, who else?
Dude, I would even dare to say there's a lot. If you listen to, I know they were more psychedelic or whatever, but there's some shit with the Doors. Just because, people think of punk as whatever, like it's an attitude. There was some Doors shit, man, where you listen to The Music's Over, right? When the music's over, sounds like fucking 10, 12-minute long opus. It's great. But at the end, I mean, they're even, dude, the first time maybe a blast beat was recorded for all you death metal and grindcore fans out there is, you hear that on the drums, like, holy shit, like, was that the original blast beat before Napalm Death, like...
Well, you have a point. A lot of the concerts, they were riots, so that could have been the first pogo dancing. So,
right.
I mean, once again, to me, it's always a fun argument. I mean, even a genre I hate, like disco. First official disco? What kicked that off?
Blondie.
And I always thought it was a song that I actually liked called "Rock the Boat" by the Hughes Corporation.
Okay.
And then it turned into, bland, just horrible stuff like "Do the Hustle" and just nonsense. But I mean, once again, someone did something slightly different, and then it, as we talked about earlier, it just became completely appropriated and turned to bland nonsense.
Oh yeah, that's why they had the disco burn up here at the old Comiskey Park in Chicago. Steve Dahl, I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I used to have the disco demolition.
I was in high school in the '70s, and I hated disco, and I became a punker instead. I said, the Ramones, 2 minutes.
Oh, dude, I fucking love the Ramones. Yeah. Now I want us this some glue. Fuck yeah, dude. And you know what? Think of like, there's not very many bands when you think, and not to be like morbid, I guess, but where the whole band's dead. The whole original, there's no original Ramones left. So for all you smart marks out there, they're going to listen to this and be like, oh, well, Juice don't know what he's talking about. Hey, fuck you. I'm aware of CJ. I'm aware of Marky, but all the original Ramones are gone, Like, think about it really. How many of these original bands, fuck, the Beatles, even they're all still alive. Well, not all still alive. I mean, half of them are still alive. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got caught up. I'm drinking this 3 Floyd zombie dust. But you know what I'm saying? Like, a band that fucking huge and influential, and they're all gone, man. No more. That's weird. That I don't know. It always did something to me because to me, the Ramones were the Beatles. Yeah, they were like the Beatles of fucking punk rock, man.
Keith Richards is immortal.
Yeah, Keith Richards is never gonna die, dude. He's gonna be like a fucking. Remember Futurama where they have like the floating heads in the fucking thing? That's gonna be Keith Richards, like smoking still in that liquid somehow.
Well, that's a good segue. I can give you a good Cars story because I used to live in the building I was
Nice.
in one part of Boston called Vaseline Alley. There was a band called the Atlantics, and they were supposed to be the big next thing out of Boston in the late 70s. And a couple of them lived in my building, and they were friends with the Cars before
Rick
their
Ocasek?
personalities were gone. So the Cars and the Atlantics were sitting on my front step, drinking, doing stuff. And at that time, I had two jobs. My night job was a security guard, where I had to fit my 1976 Gremlin in a parking lot guarding the bank. Not against robberies, but against this is the worst part of Boston.
Yeah.
Throwing bricks to the old glass bank.
Yep.
So I'm walking down the stairs, my little stupid fake cop outfit, and Rick Ocasek hands me a plate of little mandarin oranges with toothpicks in them. I go, "What's in this?" He goes, "Oh, nothing. Just soaking in brandy." So I know I had a couple, and like I said, my job was all night sitting in my car watching this bank. And what he didn't tell me was it was actually soaking in organic mescaline.
Oh.
So if you're sitting in a car in the worst part of town, and my job was, if I saw something happen, this was obviously way before cell phones, to run across Morrissey Boulevard, which is a highway, to a payphone, to call the police. And now I'm tripping balls. So to this day, if I ever find Rick Ocasek, I'm knocking his ass out.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
You don't give someone,
drug them up,
LSD or anything without knowing it first.
Yeah, for sure. You can't dope. So that's like slipping someone a roofie. Essentially, you're lucky your butt was protected.
Right. Well, I'm just lucky that no one set up the bank that night. What was I going to do then? The job was scary enough as it is. Okay, I see a whole bunch of guys about to throw bricks to a building. I'm going to run across, even in the middle of the night, a busy highway to go to a payphone looking like a cop. Yeah, that's going to work.
Yeah.
Try doing that when you're high off your ass and you're not expecting to.
Right.
I used to slip blockheads sometimes just to stay awake. That's how horrible that job was. So.
Yeah. Barry, let me ask you.
Yeah, go ahead.
About your relationship with Henry Rollins, since you brought that up, because Henry is also a huge fucking influence on me, just personally, professionally, with my band. Growing up, I was always a big fan of these dudes that just look like they were the rock stars. They were huge, but they were like the tough motherfuckers, like Henry Rollins, Glenn Danzig. I still to this day, I always call them the Rollins shorts. I go out, you'd always come out shirtless and wearing no shoes or socks and just like the boxing shorts, the gym shorts or whatever on. I do the same thing, and that's in tribute to Henry Rollins because for one, I'm a huge Black Flag fan and Rollins band, dude. And I love his stand up, dude. He's very articulate. The man has lived some fucking shit. Tell me a little bit about your relationship with fucking Hank.
Well, I met him. This is another weird job I decided to take. Once again, I was living in Atlanta before. I was working for CNN and WCW. I had some weird jobs, and one of the weirdest was I was a bouncer at a neo-Nazi skinhead bar, and I'm just
oh god.
I was a lot bigger then than I am now, and I would actually just for a sec I would wear my Star of David necklace. For all to see, and the Rollins band was booked there one night.
Nice.
Some neo-Nazi skinheads did like the Rollins band.
No.
So he actually saw, going in, here's this guy wearing, he knew what kind of bar it was, and he saw my Star of David, and he saw that I didn't get into any fights with any neo-Nazis, that they actually respected me, because I told them, I'm not here to kick your ass unless you force me to. So if you want to, goose step, deep howl, do whatever, slam dance each other, fine, just don't do anything you can't do here.
Yeah.
And so they realized, okay, I'm not that guy. So that's how I first met him, and we started talking that night. And then years later, when I became a filmmaker, my mentor is a guy named Rich Schmidt, and he did a brilliant film in the early 70s called Emerald City.
Yeah.
That featured some live punk from Flipper and the Mutants.
Yeah, I love Flipper. Dude.
And so I had actually gotten Henry Rollins' email, and I said, I got this film I want to show you. So he gave me the address, and I sent it to him, and he emailed back, so that was awesome. So we just started, email back and forth. I tried to find some way to get him involved in some of the things I was doing when I worked for WCW later than films, and it never happened. But I wanted to get him at my film festival that I started in Rome, Georgia, because once again, he's also an actor.
Oh yeah, dude, I like the chase.
I mean, I don't want to act like we're best buddies, but we have communicated over the years, and like I've never worn it out, like constantly bothering. Same with Kevin Smith at Clerks. You know, I met him a long time ago when his first film.
He's doing
my first film was at the Film Festival in New York.
You know, he's redoing. He's writing the new He-Man for Netflix.
He's doing all kinds of weird things.
He's got some cool shit.
Yeah, he reinvented in a lot of. He's responsible for the next big wave of independent filmmaking.
Oh, for sure.
I can use a bunch of credit cards and make a film and about all kinds of weirdness in my head, and it'll make it big. No, it won't.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen that often. Just like Nirvana doesn't happen that often. It happens when you got lightning in the bottom and did something really, really great.
Same thing with Tarantino, man.
After that, but never anything close, right?
Yeah. They'll never be. That was a fucking movement, and and that movement had started. People may or may not want to believe this, but it was before Nirvana. There was that buzz. You were around back then, but they were the ones that really sealed the deal once, and it all goes back to the songwriting. Like Kurt was a fucking ingenious songwriter. Yes, it was simple, but hey, motherfuckers, like, you ain't knocking the Ramones. Their shit was simple as hell. It was just fast and it was good. Like, it was super simple. It was super honest. It was deep, even though I think he, he would always be like, "Oh, music's always the main focus. It's not lyrical content." But hindsight's 20/20. You go back and you look at a lot of shit. There's a story there, But yeah, man, that was.
You brought up the Doors, which to me is a great comparison to Nirvana, because lyrically they were just way ahead of everybody else.
Oh yeah, dude. No One Here Gets Out Alive. Have you read that book?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love it, dude. I became obsessed with the Doors I'm 36 now, so we're talking probably freshman year of high school, and still to this day, dude, they blow my mind, and not just Jim Morrison, but all of them. The whole group together was something super great, and it's also cool because Ray Manzarek's a Chicago guy, so we got that.
Well, I mean, you have John Densmore, who was basically a jazz drummer.
He was,
kind of like Charlie Watts is.
Yeah.
You have Rodney Krieger, who was a
flamenco,
guitarist,
yeah.
And Manzarek, who basically played Carnival type keyboards, and then Jim Morrison and that almost Sinatra-like voice.
Sinatra and very haunting.
I've never heard before. It's like that band would not make it today.
No, I don't think so.
People go, "What the hell is this?"
But their sound is so iconic. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of bands. I don't know if you're familiar with a band now that's kind of popular, they're metal-esque. Ghost. You ever heard of those guys?
Nope, I'm an old fart and I'm completely out of the loop.
Oh, it's good. I mean, they're kind of like a King Diamond maybe meets the Doors meets Blue Oyster Cult.
See, you would have been good in the music promotion business, because that's how you had to sell a new band to a record label. You had to go, "Here's a new band." Well, you better give me some comparisons that makes me familiar with it. Stuff you say, "Oh, it's like the Wonder Stuff meets the Ramones."
Yeah.
Huh? Okay.
Right.
Barry, let me. I want to interrupt with a question that after you guys have been talking about music for so many minutes, I really am interested in this. So what band or what bands or what genre do you frequently revisit? Like when you get in your car or you have to do something around your garage,
go in that wormhole
or something, like what do you frequently revisit? Like what are some of your favorites? What do you get into? What do you, if you have a couple glasses of wine or if you're doing something, what's the band that you either seek out live, like to go see a concert, or when you're at home, like, what are some of your favorites?
That's a great question. And basically, my favorite groups are ones that really defy genre. As much as I love punk and I love, when they call it new wave, the bands that I like in all those things that you mentioned, you may not even heard of them. One is, they're not really around anymore, although the members is an Australian band called Dead Can Dance.
Never heard of them. There is an Australian band called Buffalo that I like.
Basically, the male and female lead singers, Brendan Perry and Lisa Gerard. Brendan Perry sounds, once again, this is going to be like, this person meets Frank Sinatra meets Jim Morrison. And their music is a combination of South African polyrhythms, Middle Eastern chords, Italian opera. I mean, there's just nothing like them. There's no other. This is their sound, and in concert, they were absolutely brilliant. And like I said, there's no genre. They're not rock. They're not soul. They're not punk. They're not new wave. They're not jazz. They're dead can dance. And the other band that I really, really like is called Spiritualized. There's basically one guy that's constantly changing his bandmates, and his name is Jay Spaceman. He's originally in a band called Spaceman 3, and a lot of it was, it's not really techno, it's not really how, it's once again, it defies, I mean, he uses a lot of gospel type chords and songs, and he puts a real heavy guitar and synthesizer riffs over it.
Okay.
So, I mean, I just love bands that just define, I mean, Wilco is probably the most well-known band that I think you can't really describe them. They're called alt country, but they're not really. They're kind of punk, but not really. They're rock, but not really. I mean,
not everything you can put a full label on. You have to do that thing where it's, well, they sound like this guy, or that band, all together. You can't just say, well, it's grunge, or it's alternative country, or it's, that's the one thing that I believe the industry loves to do, because it narrows shit down, makes it more marketable.
This is what I was going to say.
Exactly, it's product then.
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
A market product, you have to be able to label it so it can be mass produced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you kill the soul. I mean, I heard, getting back to the Cars, I heard their demo album before they put them in the studio with a producer. And even though I liked the product afterwards, it lost that real rough edge.
It should have had Steve Albini, man.
Boston Beer. We went to a place called the Rat Skillet. It was called the Rat. The dive bar, and that's where they played all the time, and they were great. And then it all smoothed out, so they became hits.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do believe so. You were saying earlier, like back when you had your radio show and you were trying to feature grunge and bands that people haven't heard of. One of the things that people did have skills, and people that are deep into music that do have a skill that they have, is that thing where you can compare a new band and say, well, give me a taste of like what that is. Mm-hmm. And you say, well, it's a marriage between this and that. That is something that is rare. I still would have the argument musically. There are a lot of really, really good bands out there that nobody's heard of. There's a lot of really good new music that has come out, today. That's coming out tomorrow. That's coming out that's come out in the last year. But what I do think, and I like to make that argument, that we are in a particularly wonderful time if you're a music lover, because you have access to everything before. Like for the history of music, everything that's been recorded, we have access to all that. But then there's a bunch of obsessed musicians that are creating new stuff that is really good.
And they learn from the best, and it's like ridiculous. Like a guy who grew up watching Eddie Van Halen, now all of a sudden it's like he's got like 80 fingers and he's just blowing it up.
For sure. But what is massively lacking, in my opinion, is people that could actually communicate to you
the soul, man. Like,
hey, listen to this band because this, and this. A lot of these guys that either have like, one of the last magazines running, or like some TV channel.
Fluff.
Well, no, like the promotional people.
That's what I'm saying. You have to have soul. That's why I pride ourselves on what we do, because we got motherfucking soul. Yeah.
I think the obsessed music fans are lacking.
Like me, I'm in my early 60s, and I hate always go back to the old days. But you listen to something on the radio, then you like it, then you go in the record store to get it, and the record store might be playing something you never heard before. Oh, what's that? Then you ask the guy what it is.
Yeah.
And then now if you're buying an album you've never heard before.
Right.
And I mean, now that I don't even know exactly where to listen. I mean, I know it's out there, and I hate to get off my lawn, guy, but I've turned into that. I mean, I don't.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with a fucking shotgun.
So I guess I have another. So based on the timeline of your history, so you did some work, you did some stuff with WCW, right? And then it transitioned, or it overlapped where you did the radio show, which is amazing. I'm a huge fan of any kind of radio production. I'm a talk show guy, obviously. But then how did you? Because you're a filmmaker, you produce film, you make films, you. I mean, can you talk a little bit to like how did that? We're huge fans at the JP Dub. Like, we're huge fan of makers. Like, anybody that's making things and like tries to create some sort of entertainment product. Like, how did that happen?
Well, like I said before, I'm kind of an opportunist. I got into creating the radio show when I knew my gig at WCW was about to end, and all of a sudden it did. I moved to New York, and me and my partner put the show out. When, after 12 weeks, the show ended, not because of that it wasn't doing well, but that the syndicator told you make money in syndication when you have to have 80% of the major markets covered, and then you can sell advertising. Every week, they always got you 20 more stations, 30 more, and after 12 weeks, we finally got our lawyer to get them to realize that they only took our show because they were selling the company, and they took us to increase the sale price.
Yeah.
So we weren't in any of those major markets except the one that my partner and I cleared, New York, Orlando, and Hartford. So now we have to shut down the radio, our show, even though it was a critical success because we weren't making any money.
That happened pretty at that time. At that time, but right before the. Sorry, Barry. At that time, when the internet was sort of starting to like tiptoe around things, and that as far as like radio content that didn't exist, but back then in the mid 90s, in the mid 90s, stuff like that happened all the time.
You had to clear New York, Miami, Detroit, Chicago, all of Dallas, and then you're 80% of those. Then there's advertising all the way to be pumped into your show. Yeah, I think you're like the example that you give happened a lot nationally to a bunch of different radio stations, and always people getting bought out, and you never know. It's like sometimes you get the news in the the syndicators didn't even try. They didn't even. Their job was to get our show on these markets, and they weren't going to try because they were for sale. So why are they going to work their asses off to try to clear our show so we can get advertising if they just wanted to increase the sales price?
Right.
So we had to stop the show, even though it was even though it was on these crappy markets, other than the ones that my partner and I cleared. I mean, we got written up in Billboard, we got written up in Radio and Records, all the major music trades saying this is the new coming of the alternative music scene. So critically, we were huge, and unfortunately, it was costing us $2,000 a week out of our own money to produce it. But we had to pay our hosts, we had to pay. You talk about engineers, we had a top engineer in the business, to do the show, and
Who was
we
that?
had to stop it. So
Who was that?
His name was Mitch. I'm trying to remember his last name. It was like Mekatansky. He worked for Sony. I mean, the Bob Fest that was on television in 1992, he did all the audio for it. He was just brilliant, and I mean, he was considered the absolute best audio engineer in the business. So he engineered our show, and for all the weird things that we did, it took someone like him to be able to do it. So I mean, we did any crazy thing that came out of our heads, that they're trying to make people, whatever we could think of. We did some really funny shit. And I got clearances from Warren Michaels to use a snippet from Saturday Night Live show with the Whiners.
Nice.
William and Wendy Weiner, mine's not working. So we come out of a break, go right to them, and snippet them right into a song by Morrissey. We didn't know people would get that because people always used to claim, Morrissey is a whiner.
Yeah, he fucking is.
We thought it was funny. We played the song,
Smith
Life of Riley, by the Lightning Seed, and we got permission, to use the opening from the 50 show, which started William Bendix, The Life of Riley. Come out of a break, play that song right into the Lightning Seed.
I love that.
We did.
Everything about what you just said.
We did stuff like that. We segued from practice what the world needs now, because the line says another Frank Sinatra, like I need a hole in my head. We then segue to a few seconds of actual Frank Sinatra singing, I did it my way. Segue to that of Sid Vicious, from the Sex Pistols, singing his version, Ray Quetz, that's you. I mean, this is the type of stuff we would do to get people into the hour of our show to listen to all the other stuff that they haven't heard before. So when we had to end that show, and I said, what do I want to do now? I said, make film. Go into a bookstore and get a book I found called Feature Filmmaking at Used Car Price. I read the book, thought it was brilliant, tracked down the author, who I mentioned before, Rick Schmidt. He did the film that had Flipper and the Mutant. Mm-hmm. I said, I love your book. And he goes, okay, well, come out here and let's make a film together. So I was working for WCW, and at that time I went back to Atlanta, was working with WCW. Now I'm actually their overnight syndicated show tape dubber, a horrible job. Worked all night, one weekend.
What are you talking about Saturday night? Are you talking about WCW Saturday night?
I mean, after my job got eliminated, go to New York to do the radio show. That ends. Go back to Atlanta, become the overnight tape dubber.
Yeah, I did. You know what though? I'm glad you said that because, and I want to get back into your film stuff, but real quick, I love WCW Saturday Night from like the early '90s, '92, '93, and then the Flair for the Gold and all that. I want to get into that next, but
that was actually on CBS. That wasn't a syndicated show. We had Main Event Wrestling.
I remember Main Event.
I forget the name of the 3 shows were.
Yeah, but anyways, go back to what you're saying.
The little nothing markets.
Yeah.
All over the country.
We'll circle back around to that.
Yeah, and no matter what I do, it's like the mafia. No matter how much I try to get out, it pulls me back in.
Yeah, right.
So,
come here, dig it.
So I ended up, making my first film, after being up all night doing tape dubbing, taking 3 planes, driving from Seattle to Port Town, was a couple of hours. Made my first film with him called Blues for the Avatar. It got into film festivals all over the world, including one where I met Kevin Smith, where he had Clerks. And from that, I came up with the idea of making a film festival in Georgia, and got a master's degree in film studies at Boston University, and ended up buying a movie theater in Brunswick, Maine.
Nice. What was the name of that theater?
In Gloucester, Massachusetts, working for AMC, the big corporate theater of movie theaters.
American cocks.
But I think I mentioned that one of the films I did make, which has been heavily pirated, was when I decided I was going to be a filmmaker, I'm not going to take any real job, and I ran out of money, and then I ended up being a bill collector for 1 month.
Ooh.
And I hated every second of it. It's horrible. I mean, but I made a film about it called Deadbeats. And Deadbeat starred Mick Foley and a very, very young Melissa McBride, who's now one of the stars of The Walking Dead. She plays Carol. So once people found that out, they started pirating the film. There's actually entire websites where they do screen grabs and translate my dialogue on each screen.
Don't you got copyright claims or some shit on it?
It's an internet boutique business.
What's that?
It's its own business unto itself. I don't make a nickel from it. I mean, you can Google it. Google Deadbeats and then just put Melissa McBride and see how many websites come up. I mean, just dozens of them. Facebook pages from all over the world. I mean,
brother, you need to talk to a fucking lawyer.
So and not only that, I found out that every collection agency is also downloaded because it's must viewing. And how many? Because I actually teach you how to be a bill collector, because that's Mick Foley plays a guy. I mean, and here's another funny story about it. I'm really proud of the opening scene that I wrote, where Mick he has binoculars. He's scoping out a fast food restaurant. He sees this huge black guy walk in there, and he goes around to the drive-thru, and he goes, "Hey, see that big black guy? That's my partner. He's going to shoot your ass if you give me all the money in the register and a couple of Polish dogs."
Yeah, so a couple Polish.
The crew that worked on my film, months later, worked on a film starring George Clooney and Jennifer Lopez called Out of Sight.
Yep.
And that movie is completely based on an Elmore Leonard book, and it's completely true to the book, except for one scene where George Clooney goes into a bank, and he goes to the teller and goes, "See that guy talking to your bank president? That's my partner. He's going to kill him."
They took that shit from you? They took that fucking shit from you. Hey, I ain't going to put you in the hot seat. I'm going to say it for you. So it's not you saying it, but they fucking stole from you. You need reparations, dude.
Jennifer Lopez, that was her blow-up movie.
Copyright an idea. So even though I'm pretty sure they got it from my film, I can't. I mean, even if I actually wrote Danny DeVito's company, his production company. Hey, at least give me screen credit to that.
Yeah.
But if they did that, then they would be on the hook for all any monies or all residuals. So the only thing I could do is pat myself on the back.
Well, fuck it.
Sure I wrote a scene in the major motion picture.
No one can argue that influence. I mean, I can't. Again.
And my other claim to fame, I've been an extra in 2 films, and both of them grossed over $100 million. One was Sweet Home Alabama, with Reese Witherspoon, and the other was Adam Sandler's Kronos. So I'm 2 for 2 as an extra.
Nice.
Nice.
I have a question.
You
said
on my resume. Well, you filmed to make $100 million. Hire me as an extra.
Put me in the background.
Yeah, I made $5.
So, you mentioned unfortunately you had to sell your movie theater recently, but you also did a film festival. How long did you do that for? Because it seems like you did that for a very long time.
Well, I started in Dahlonega, Georgia, because Dahlonega looked a lot like this my favorite film festival in Portugal. And that ran for 3 years, and then I moved to Rome, Georgia. The reason why I moved it was 2 reasons. One, the National Alliance, which is the largest neo-Nazi group in the country, they were getting neo-Nazis threatened my life because they said, I don't know how they found that I was Jewish, because I don't look typically Jewish, or whatever that means. And then the town decided that this festival was making so much money, we're going to charge them for everything. So there was a ticket surcharge, the rental for the movie theater went up from $500 to $5,000, and they even called the ATF on me one year.
What the fuck? You know what?
So
I would murder every one of those last ones.
We're just angrily grumbling.
So I moved to Rome, Georgia, and I ran it. So I ran the total the 2 towns, Dahlonega and Rome, for 7 years. It's still going strong in Rome, Georgia. It's not quite as big as when I ran. I'm always over ambitious. I would have 180, 190 films in 5 different venues. They do like 40 films in one venue.
Right.
So, but it's still there, which is, it's a small town, only 30,000. So to have a film festival in Rome, Georgia, that still exists, that I founded and ran, I'm very, very happy that it's still going. But I never do anything half-assed. I do everything full maestro. We're going to have 200 films, 4 days, 5 venues. We're going to go crazy.
Yeah, we're going to get fucking jacked. Yeah. Get juice.
And one of the early films we showed is a brilliant film from New Zealand called 2 Cars, 1 Night, and the director of that is the guy who went on to direct Thor Ragnarok.
Good, because I thought you were going to say 2 Girls, 1 Cup for a second.
Thor Ragnarok. That
was the last Thor. It was it was really good. That was the best Thor movie so far. The first one was boring bullshit. You
said that was that one of his first films?
For Ragnarok, he did some television, but he did a bunch of short films in New Zealand, and one of them, 2 Cars, 1 Night.
Yeah.
He submitted, and I accepted my film festival. And he showed up there, and I said, "This guy's
awesome.
good talent." I had no idea he was going to become a giant, major, superhero, of a $400 million budget guy.
Yeah.
He's got a new movie coming out called Jojo Rabbit, where he plays Hitler's ghost type of thing.
Back to Hitler
God. Again.
I'll watch.
Everything goes back to Nazis. It's this little young kid, Hitler youth, who his imaginary friend is Hitler.
That's weird.
You got look at the trailer for that, Jojo Rabbit. It's hilarious. I've got to go see this movie.
Yeah.
And
there's always some Nazi
Zealand,
shit.
So all the little German kids are speaking with a New Zealand accent.
And I think a lot of the reason that and no insult to you or anybody that's Jewish, because I ain't got I got a lot of love in my heart for anybody that's a real cool motherfucker, I think a lot of that obsession when it comes to entertainment is just because if you think of any story, whether it's fictional or nonfiction, they probably end up as like the biggest, most ultimate fucking villain. You know what I'm saying? Like that shit's just it's a whole nother level. Like there's you got all these Nazi zombie movies, and then Tarantino's doing movies and they got the Nazis in them and all this shit. So that's just my take.
Yeah, but now when the Jews kill all the Nazis, so I like that movie.
Yeah, that was what they called the Jewish bear. What was Eli Roth? What do you like? The bear, bear Jew.
What's it called? The Jew bear.
The Jew bear. That's it. The Jew bear. He was just brutal as fuck, dude. Just mutilating people with like a bat or something.
That's my hero, and I'm bigger than he is.
You're bigger than him?
I'm bigger than Eli Roth. Well, I was, and I'm slimming down now that I can't handle that level of weight anymore with all my back, around my back, my neck problem. But yeah, I used to be a lot.
Yeah, my back, my neck.
I used to be 6'5". I'm now down to 6'3". I used to be 270. Now I'm down to about 215. But yeah,
I weigh more than you now.
On back in the day.
Hell yeah. Hey, so real quick, I want to circle back around to the WCW again, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So after, it still blows my mind that you worked for them, and that was prime time. I loved like that era of WCW, and of course everything that came after. I liked it even at the end when a lot of people said it was god awful, and it was a pretty bad product. But, so you just to reiterate, you covered from when? What'd you say, 90 to 95?
89 and 95.
89, 95. So you were there. You became friends with who were some of your boys that you would say after your experience in WCW that you took away from that you still talk to today?
Well, like I said, Mick Foley and I, stayed in contact, especially after he wrote books and then I wrote.
I got a
book
few of them.
Sent it to him, and he said he loved it, and he starred in my movie Deadbeats.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept in touch with him. Obviously, you know about the other one, Sid Vicious. We've been friends for 27 years. He was a hard person to make friends with until I brought up softball.
How intimidating! Don't say that. Don't say that softball. We only play hardball here.
I know. Sting and I were more. I mean, there's really no one else I stayed in touch with. I learned to Sting a few times over the years, and he actually came up to me and he apologized. He goes, none of us knew how important you were to what we were doing.
Yeah.
We were all bastards back then. We didn't want to be bothered by anybody because I'm the guy that told him, you got to call this radio station up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, you were the PR man.
But then when I started getting them cast in movies and films, then they all came around. Then I was the guy they wanted to see. Hey, can you get me on this show? Can you get me in that movie? Hey, you're my man.
Now, when you were in there, though, who was running?
I got Kevin Nash cast in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, dude, you did? Dude, that's his big role. I know he gets livid. Everybody was asking about, like, what was it like to be fucking Super Shredder?
That was the turning point of his career. Before that, he had every bad gimmick in the world.
Yeah, dude, Vinny Vegas, the Oz.
Vinny Vegas. Oh,
Oz was Dusty's idea. The American dream, Dusty Rhodes.
That's where I got the most heat with Dusty. I was in the conference room when they go, okay, babe, I got this great idea. We're going to have Oz based on the Wizard of Oz. And I said, Dusty, that's a fictitious place in a movie from 1939. How does that translate into his wrestling character?
They can't all be hits.
Where does he go? And of course, I mean, he only appeared one time. He got this huge matte painting of Emerald City for Kevin Nash's entrance. He comes out, he's wearing a Halloween wizard mask.
Yep, I remember that.
Tries to have I forget, it had like planets on it and stars.
No, it was
Kevin
ridiculous.
Sullivan is accompanying to the room, just going, "Welcome to Oz, welcome to Oz." And they had a capuchin monkey who was so nervous from the crowd, he just crap all over everywhere.
God.
So then Kevin Nash steps over the top rope, takes off his rubber Halloween mask, and his hair is like powdered white. He's like, oh, it's Kevin Nash.
Mm.
Oh, okay. There's nowhere to go with the character Oz. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't. And I try to explain that in the movie. I go, what does Oz do? Why does anyone care? Why would any?
Well,
there were. I'm going to fashion myself after that. That's going to be my gimmick.
Barry, I think a lot of that, especially at that time, and that was still, WWF was responsible for a lot of these over the top characters and everything. I think they were probably just trying to do that, and it just obviously didn't work. They're like, well, we need something ridiculous, and they gave us some fucking ultra ridiculous,
well, I mean, the Shockmaster. I mean, you can.
Oh my God!
Shockmaster. At the stake when he trips through it.
Yeah, it's fucking tugboat, dude.
That was just. Even if he doesn't trip through the gimmick wall,
it's
what
stupid.
What do you do with the Shockmaster?
Yeah, he looked fucking stupid, dude, with the stormtrooper helmet that's all glittery as fuck, like he just came out of a gay bar. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Original tinfoil hat.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, I'm coming after you.
Like,
is this Dr. fucking Claw?
He had some good ideas, like the Black Scorpion, but I can't.
Black Scorpion was dope. Was that now? Correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be mixing this up because so much shit, and I don't like to pull from like looking at papers or internet. It's just from pure memory. Black Scorpion was Ric Flair, right?
Well, that's what they ended up doing because they had no plan.
Right.
It's all seat of your pants stuff, and I said this is episodic television. You actually have to know where you're going to end up, and then you figure out how to tell a
story. Yeah.
So Ole came up with the idea of the Black Scorpion. He did the interviews with the gimmick voice. He didn't know who it was. Mm-hmm. Then they didn't know what to do. Then they started having the magic acts in the ring. They'd hire illusionists. All of a sudden, Sting pulls the black curtain, and there's a tiger inside a cage.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with it? So then they didn't know where to go. So let's make the Black Flair.
Let me ask you about this. What about fucking RoboCop?
That's when I first started. That was the first big thing I had. They made the RoboCop 2 was coming out.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Sting was just he just rehabbed his knee injury where he tore his patella tendon.
Mm-hmm.
So that was going to be Capital Combat.
Yep.
And so we had the stunt man, to play RoboCop, actually show up in the ring. So we had
won the
all
real
the
Murphy.
the commercials with it where he says the famous line from the movie, "Think it over, creep." Okay, this is great.
Yeah.
So RoboCop, the stuntman for RoboCop, is actually going to interfere in this match. I think it was Sting Luger. I can't remember if it was Luger or Flair.
Mm.
And anyway, he trips and falls on his back, and he's like a beetle. He can't get up.
Oh,
It's like, okay, it was a great tie-in. You get this mainstream star, RoboCop doing promos with Sting, saying the big line, the big catchphrase. And then it was horrible. But I mean, I did get a lot. That was the first time I got a lot of press. We got a picture of RoboCop and Sting, and I was able to send that all to the mainstream press. Oh yeah, okay, we'll print that. Sure, fine with it. And then it's just okay. Where is this going to? Why is RoboCop helping Sting?
Mm-hmm.
He's a movie character. Why is he showing up in a wrestling match?
But it was geared towards kids, like I said, I remember being a kid at that time, and I never thought about it that much in depth, even though I knew it was kind of ridiculous. But I just thought, I was like, man, this is fucking cool,
Well, but once again, does it go anywhere? The poor Brad Armstrong. They
oh God, yeah.
They made him the Candy Man. He's going to throw candy at everybody.
Yeah.
A piece of candy hit a kid in the eye, and that.
Or look like a pedophile wants some candy. Hey,
right, and then we get Art Farr to play Beetlejuice, and of course they got sued for that name.
Well,
so
what about Arachnaman? You remember Arachnaman? Were you there for that?
Arachnaman. And then they came up with an idea, which thank God they tracked. They're going to have a couple of hunchbacks, the tag team, and things like that. But since they're hunchbacks, they can't be pinned.
So was this all Dusty? I mean, was he like head of creative when you were there? Who was running it? Was it like Jim Herd or? Well,
Jim Herd was the executive vice president. He's the one that actually came up with the idea for the hunchback. I actually liked Jim Herd because he was he was an honest. If you want to cast on to play a longshoreman in your union fight movie, he'd be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
He hated wrestling. He hated the wrestlers. He was hired because Jack Petrick, who was the head of Turner Home Entertainment, where we were folded into that division. Mm-hmm. He didn't know who to hire, for the executive vice president. So
nobody did,
Jim
man.
At one point worked at a TV station that carried some of WCW's pro. Yeah, you do it. So he hated wrestling. He hated the guy. Didn't know how to negotiate with them. And first Dusty, then Ole was the booker.
Yep.
And then when he got fired, once again, they didn't know who to turn to. So Petrick went around the company. Who wants to head up WCW? This idiot lawyer, Kip Fry. I'll do it. Well, so he all of a sudden becomes the executive vice president. The first thing he asks me to do is, we have a pay-per-view coming up in Kansas City. I want to call a press conference.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, oh, God, I know what he means. He's thinking he's going to be at a podium with a whole bunch of microphones, with every news logo on there, and a room full of media, like a presidential press conference.
Yeah.
The entire media is going to be there trying to ask questions. This is such an important moment. And I try to convince them. I says, nobody cares. The mainstream press, I get them to do things once in a while when I actually have something to promote, and that's what they'll do because I'm not bothering them all the time with nonsense.
Yeah.
I said, they still think, I'm the executive vice president of Turner Broadcasting Division. No comments to know what you're doing. And I go, well, there goes my job.
Damn.
That's what happened. I called a press conference. I twisted every arm I could, and I got 3 people there. And that was that. And Dusty played Fry for all his work, put him on camera as K. Allen Fry, because Kip just wasn't manly enough. And he killed it. And then they hired Cowboy Bill Watts.
Yeah,
and then
Bill
they
Watts.
hired an accountant named Bill Bush.
Yep.
And he completed it. And that was the end of it.
And that was the end of it until Bischoff took over, right?
Well, that's right. Bischoff was actually before Bush, and Bischoff is what the big run was under Bischoff. But the reason why it didn't work eventually is because the cost overrun for the Monday Night Nitro. He would have every single talent show up at the arena and figure out then who was going to wrestle.
Yeah.
A whole lot of people
there was no
were
planning.
flying and getting hotel rooms and not being used.
Yeah, they were getting. There was a lot of guys back then because, and I honestly think the whole process thought was, once they kind of struck gold, or even before they didn't, it was like, hey, it's Uncle Ted's pocketbook. Like as long as there's some sort of draw, like we'll just fucking pay these guys to do nothing.
The draw was, which worked for a little while, in other words, was all seat your pants. He would decide right there
Everything
on the fly
was by
what
the seat.
the angle was and who's going to wrestle. He thought that's why people are going to tune in, because you never know what's going to happen. There's nothing to promoting.
Yeah,
and
that's
it lasted a long way. How many weeks? Like 59 weeks. We were beating
83.
Raw.
83.
The ratings, just killing them.
Or 83 or 82, something like that.
And then it fell. It completely fell apart because it wasn't sustainable. It wasn't sustainable financially. And then people realized there's no reason to watch the next day. They're not going to the house shows. They're not turning on.
Yeah.
They're not watching the syndicated shows.
And that turned quick.
No continuity.
Once they got bad, and here's the thing, like I've told many people, wrestling fans are probably the most, passionate fans of all of entertainment or sports. I mean, they're there for the good, the bad, the ugly. And they were not there once it got ugly with WCW. They let people know because they fucking turned the channel to USA Network or wherever it was at the time, TNN or whatever WWE was on at the time. And it blows my mind because to think there was a company that blew Vince's ass out the fucking water for 2 years, damn near. They were like WCW. It was like almost like WWF never existed because you had all the main guys over there and they were doing something, well, at least with the NWO guys, they were doing something that was new and hip and whatever, but they oversaturated that and wired it down, and there was no good booking over there. And they had
a good idea, and the reason why the NWO worked so well is they had an editor there named Kemper Rogers, who was genius. He created the entire look, the shaky pirate cam,
really,
the black and white promos, the whole thing that made this look like this was an illegitimate promotion that was seeping in and somehow taking over.
Dude, I'll tell you what, brother. Like, I mean, you were there.
Look, that did it.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, the booking just fell apart. I mean, so he made it interesting visually. And there wasn't enough good wrestling that, once again, like you said, the fans were passionate about it. So, yeah, I'll turn it. It's just good stuff here. And then they turned it into a cartoon, no continuity, no storyline, nothing. It's like, okay, I get the whole idea of the NWO. I've seen it, done that. Next.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I have no idea where Vince goes now. I haven't watched wrestling in years. I hear he's got a lot of talent.
Yeah,
he doesn't know how to use them.
Yeah, they are WCW back when they were starting to go down. That's what WWE is now. But the good thing is, and I hope that you tune in next week. We'll be there live in Chicago. We got a suite for All Elite Wrestling, which is owned by have you heard about All Elite AEW?
The only thing I've heard of is Elite Wrestling, which is I think out of Jacksonville. The guy that owns
Tony Khan,
Jaguars,
the Khan family.
So that's the only one I've heard of.
Yeah, it's AEW, dude. They basically signed the Young Bucks, Cody Rhodes, son of Dusty Rhodes, Kenny Omega. Like, there's this core group of dudes that are like EVPs. But I'll tell you what, they have blown up wrestling in the past couple years, man, and they have just a knack, and you could totally see Cody and Dusty's influence on shit. If you get a chance, man, go back and watch like All In. What was the big one, where it was Cody versus Dustin, and it was like the best storytelling.
Double or Nothing.
Double or Nothing. AEW Double or.
Well, I know one guy that's involved there. A guy named Alex Montez. He used to write for the Miami Herald, and then he got in.
He's commentary.
Fox Sports. I mean, they're doing pro football. And I believe he's head of promotion there. So someone who actually works into mainstream media, big time, is one of their top people.
Yeah, he's a commentary guy, and he's okay at best. I don't know. There's something just rubs me the wrong way about him with his commentary. And they got Jim Ross there, but they just signed Tony Schiavone too. So
okay, Ross didn't like me. His office was across from mine. He kept on coming up to me and pitching the story. He goes, Barry, I'm on TV more than anybody.
And was he like,
or any other sport? I go, it's not a story. I said, nobody cares if you are on more hours of TV because we have all these shows that a lot of people aren't watching. I said, it's not. I'm not pitching it. If I pitch that, the next time I pitch them something, they go, "Oh, it's that guy."
Could you imagine, Barry, if motherfuckers would have actually listened to your ass? Like, back in the day, you know? Like,
I liked him. I mean, I thought Jim Ross was good for what he did.
Yeah, he was. He's in wrestling, you know, there's got to be that believability factor, and he's very good for that because, I mean, you could put Jim Ross in a...
Good, but it wasn't. I said, who am I pitching with it? I mean, the New York Times, USA Today. That's what he wanted. He thought this was a huge story, and I know it's not a big story. I was successful with getting stuff on mainstream media because I only did it when I knew it actually was something that like all media needs content at some point. Like there's not a huge news story every single day.
No.
The best thing I had to work with, believe it or not, was Mike Rotunda as the computerized wrestler of the 90s.
Bray Wyatt's dad, IRS.
When they had Alexandra York, who later became Dustin's wife. You know, she was Terry Runnels in WWF. But I got him on a cover of USA Today. I got Inside Edition to do a story. You know, I got the permission. I'm going to rent him a Rolls-Royce limousine, and a story at the Waldorf Astoria penthouse apartment. I got Ken Gillette of Penn and Teller to write a story about it in the PC Computing magazine. So this was right after Wall Street.
Michael Wall Street.
Looks like the weed is good. So it was just the perfect gimmick, and plus the whole idea of computers. Hey, computers are now involved in wrestling.
Yeah.
So it just worked on the mainstream. So I had success with pitching it because I thought it would work, and it did. But, all the stories a lot of guys came to me when heard his job was on the line. He said, call a local TV station and say, let's literally just save a bunch of kids from a house fire. I go, they fact check this stuff.
Yeah, right.
In the water. I said, they'll realize that never happened, and I'll be done. I know I can't do that.
Yeah.
They said, what? They go, we lie. Wrestling lies for a living, so you can lie too.
Yeah, but it's funny because back then they were still maintaining kayfabe. It's like, what better way to expose the business than say some fucking outlandish shit like that you didn't do. You know, there's shit that happens like I think it was a couple months ago. Shout out to Psychosis. You remember Psychosis, right?
Oh yeah.
Dude, he legit saved someone in a fucking car accident. Like got out and like someone was, I think they were either drowning or something, and it was like headline news. Like, professional wrestler saves this guy. It was fucking Psychosis. Like, wow, that's awesome.
I got a call once from Wall Street Journal journalist Daniel Pearl. He was famous. He was actually beheaded in Afghanistan, and they made a movie about it where Angelina Jolie played his wife.
Yeah.
So he calls me up because I'm sure you heard this story. Some jobber got a serious neck injury in a squash match. So he goes to the press and says, I got hurt because he didn't follow the script. Script? Like I said, this is when it was all kayfabe. So Daniel Pearl, he thought this would be a little joke column. He's blowing the lid off us. I mean, tongue in cheek, he could care less because he's obviously the most serious journalist out there. But he thought, okay, even a serious journalist will want to do a fluff piece. So he calls me up and says, hey, Mr. Norman, you're the publicist. Tell me, I heard this guy say that he got hurt because the other guy didn't follow his script. So is there a script? Is wrestling really fake? And I hated lying for a living, so I came up with an answer that wasn't a lie. I said, well, there's a lot of people who think wrestling's fake. You'll never convince them it's real. There's a lot of people who think it's real. You'll never convince them it's fake. So I told the truth. It actually, there's a book of, posthumously, after he was killed, there's a book of his articles that he wrote for Wall Street Journal, and that one's in there. So someone came up to me and goes, do you know you're in Daniel Pearl's book? And I go, what? Oh, God. And then I remember the interview. Because, I told the truth, right?
Yeah. And you just said the F-bomb like 3 times in a fucking row.
I told the truth, and it sounds, it's proper, it sounds good. No one can argue it. No one can call me a liar, and no one can say it. Cause
except Henry Rollins.
Off of anything.
Remember?
I didn't expose the business.
Yeah.
So that was my line. I used that after that forever. Because, I was constantly, the job was hard because a lot of wrestlers were getting buzzed for steroids. Of course, I'd get the call.
Yeah,
You know, from a comment about the police blotter they just read. You know, oh God, here we go again.
Well, Vince, Vince ruined it too in that whole steroid scandal. It's like, well, it's entertainment, or at least a lot of people like to cite him as being the guy. But I mean, years before that, you had fucking Jim Duggan. And I always go back to this: him and the Sheik getting busted for coke, into a bunch of drugs or whatever, riding to the show together when they were supposed to hate each other. USA, puh, number one. Like, come on. Here's the thing: it's kayfabe back then. It was so weird. Like, as a kid growing up, I think I'm really like the last generation to kind of sort of really invest and believe in it. I had people when I started watching wrestling, like, there was like, oh, well, that's, what it is. I tend not to drop the F-bomb on here out of respect for people who do the business, but it was never like that to me. I would look at it and be like, there's no way. And then when I started to really get what it was, I'm like, okay. But still, it's like, who cares? Because no one's going and fucking saying, well, what that guy did in this movie is not real. Like, that explosion did not fucking happen.
Right.
It's
sure,
like,
right, like that can
people,
happen.
and that's, it all goes, dude, that was like the earlier version of fucking internet trolls. I don't, here's the thing. I got a lot of time in my life for good people like you, Barry, and anybody else that's got good stories to tell. But any of these negative motherfuckers, dude, could just, I'm sorry, this might sound a little bad, but just fucking, dude, put a gun to your head or do something, because nobody's got time for that. Negativity in the world, there's too much. Get over it. Don't fucking sit there and troll people that are having a good time, trying to do their thing in any medium, any art form, any shape. Like, I'm so sick of that shit. I'm so sick of the news media being negative. I'm sick of everybody, like, you get it on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram and someone's posting a picture of whatever it is, there's always somebody who's going to shit on it. Like, get over yourselves, like, that's...
Yeah, I'm starting to like the people that post cat pictures and pictures of their dinner. I'm starting to like, I used to make fun of them too, and now I'm starting to like them. Okay, you can't really argue about, no, you just had pork chops for dinner, and here's a cute picture of your cat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I love pork and pussy too,
You can't get into an argument over it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like, there's too much negativity in the world, man. We just all need to come together and, like, have a good time, man.
Sure, and there's people just like blowing the magic. It's like the guy that sits in front of the magic show. Dang, you're bombing it. Just let it go. I mean,
yeah.
Okay, good for you. You really react. You feel better?
Yeah. Keep talking shit, motherfucker, and I'm gonna come at you. That's the way I feel about it. Hey, Barry, man. I appreciate your company tonight. Where can people find you online? And you got anything in the works or anything coming up you want to promote?
Well, let's see. What do I have coming up? Do I have anything coming up? Well, the funny thing is, Cross Currents, which is the radio show I talked to you about in '92, the Alcino show, in which I interviewed Kurt Cobain and a bunch of other artists. It's in pre-production to be made into a movie.
Nice.
So there's actually a script. I found a director, she's American, but she lives in Switzerland. She's a top independent director. She loves the same type of music that I do. I told her the entire story. It's a success story because there's never been a radio show that got on the air at all that came from people outside the business. In other words, syndication came from, there's either a local talent or the syndicator turns national, or the syndication company creates a national show. Right. Me and my partner had nothing to do with, we weren't involved at all, and we got the show, even though most of the markets were nothing, we did get it on New York. And it was only on for 12 weeks. It did break 2 bands. It was it made a difference, and nobody knows about it. So it's one of those success, and it also, the show's demise actually ruined my friendship with my partner. We've been friends for almost 40 years, and as a result of that, there was just a lot of finger pointing and bad feelings. So that's in the story too. So that's the biggest thing I have going, is that hopefully that film will be made, shown sometime next year. It'll be kind of cool to see something that I did 27, 28 years ago that made a difference then and went away real quickly. So also we can hear the music. I mean, obviously I don't think where all the money will be spent is clearances.
Yeah.
for all the music that's in there.
No doubt.
But it's kind of cool that it happened.
No, it's not kind of cool. It is fucking cool that it happened. Get it right, Barry. Come on. What's your problem, man?
So that's the big thing I'm doing. Because other than that, I'm just a corporate show at a chain movie theater these days.
Yeah. Nice. Where can people find you at online? Or if you care to have people look for you.
I just have my goofy little Facebook page. Like I said, I'm on Instagram, but I haven't looked at that in months. So just if anyone looks up Barry Norman, my icon is my favorite character in the movie, Alexander Delarge from A Clockwork Orange. The scene where his eyelids are and they're held open with clamps. So if you find the Facebook page that says Barry Norman that has that as the avatar, that's me.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, well, Barry, I'd like to thank you for coming on. I hope, in the future, I'd like to have you come back on and we talk a little more WCW if you don't mind,
No, not a problem. Certainly a lot more stories about that and film stories and music and all kinds of stuff, so sure.
Yeah, man.
It's been a pleasure being on here with you guys.
Yeah, I had a great time. I hope you did as well, and there's just one more thing we got to do before we end here tonight. We got to wet 'em up, wet 'em up, wet 'em up. Barry, I'm wetting them up.
You gonna do sex to me?